Hey everyone. Okay, so obviously the first and biggest thing to talk about this chapter is the end where we see the Iron Giant awaken and simply say the words "Sorry, Joy Boy." Now, I did talk about this in a bit in yesterday's review, but two things stick about this twist to me. The first one, at least to me, is the fact that the giant hasn't awakened until this very moment, says that whatever power source it runs on, if it even runs on a power source, only ever responds to those wielding the power of Joy Boy, or more specifically, the Drums of Liberation, which is also the reason it's awakened now, as it's responding to Luffy's power as Nika, similarly to the way Zunisha did, which honestly in itself makes me think whatever this Iron Giant is, I think it is a similar situation to Zunisha in the sense where I don't think this thing is entirely even robotic. I think it's actually kind of like almost like a human in the similar way to from Zunisha. I think it's almost like a human soul trapped inside of another body or something. I I almost bet I almost want to bet on that being the thing, and with the reveal of the Five Elders' powers in itself, that does feel like it's becoming more and more likely that both Zunisha and the Iron Giant, but both were once like human, or both like, but both kind of had their souls like trapped in these bodies or something like that, or something to that effect. I don't know. I think actually the Iron Giants might be a little different because from what I understand, it was always from what I understand of the previous history, it was almost always maybe it was almost always maybe a it was almost always maybe a robot, but or maybe there was a time where it was human, but then it did have its soul trapped like before it ascended the red line or something. I don't know, but it feels like something like that might be the case here. Now about the second thing that sticks out, which is that the first thing the giant says after it's reawakened is it says sorry, Joy Boy. Now, this is where the things get interesting because obviously the thing is the giant apologizing. The thing to talk about is the giant apologizing for its failure to complete whatever mission Joy Boy had given it, and this is where things get interesting for me because I'd wager the mission the Iron Giant was given by Joy Boy at the time is also connected to the broken promise Joy Boy had written on the Ryugu Kingdom poneglyph about failing to carry out Noah's purpose. And honestly, between the giant's apology, looking at its past, on top of looking at its past actions, does kind of paint a bigger picture, I think, of what Noah's purpose might have been at that time, which is to say, I think with all the actions that Joy Boy had taken at the time of opposing the world government, I think what Joy Boy was hoping at the time, or what that Joy Boy was hoping is they wanted to connect the races of the world together and bring them all to the Red Line. But to do so, Joy Boy had to destroy the established order of the world government, which is likely the mission he gave the giant. But obviously, as we know from history, the giant failed. And like and keep in mind I'm running on pure speculation with this theory, but in my mind these dots are just kind of there's just a lot of dots connecting in my mind that are just making this make way too much sense, but it feels like it just all fits perfectly, even if there might be maybe a piece or two missing. And I don't know, it just kind of, I don't know, the whole thing with the giant and with Joy Boy's broken promise, it really connects all to more perfectly than I think I would like it to. But I don't know. I'm running on pure speculation here, but it feels like it could be that. Now let's talk about Lucci, because after getting thoroughly defeated by Jinbei, dealing a final blow as it were, he makes a plea to Mars in order to spare Kaku's life in the attempt to retrieve York. And aside from Mars' promise being worth absolute shit, it is so interesting seeing the continued evolution of just how much Lucci has changed. Which, in this instance, it's one of those things where, yes, while he is still loyal to the government, one of the key things that has changed about him, as you see just from his exchange with Mars, is he has also learned the value of developing personal connections with those he considers his comrades. Now, in this regard, and given the circumstances, this chapter did once again intrigue me as to what Lucci's going to ultimately decide to do, because to some extent he had to have already known that when he made that plea, that he and Kaku were expendable. He himself once had that very mentality drilled into him through his CP9 training. So it's not like he doesn't know what's likely to happen to Kaku. The only question is, what's he going to do about it? What is Oda's endgame for Lucci here in this moment? Because right now, there are no avenues where I don't see him dying, whether that involves opposing Mars or just getting caught in the crossfire trying to save Kaku like this. This all feels too much of a perfect setup for Lucci's death, no matter how it plays out. And in some ways, it would be kind of weirdly fitting for a death like his, because he has... It would almost be that sort of unsung hero kind of thing of him choosing to just save one life in sacrificing his own life in order to save Kaku. It's one of those things where he's always been, no matter what the circumstance, he's always been kind of a man in the shadows, just invisible to the world, and it would just kind of be a weirdly beautiful sense of the world not knowing of the sacrifice that Lucci made in order to save Kaku. It'd be kind of poetic in that regard, I guess you could say. And yeah, let's take a brief moment to talk about Luffy's continued battle with the Elder Stars in this chapter, because all this is going on because Oda continues the pattern of going full Looney Tunes with Luffy's Nika powers, as one of the highlights of comedy with this chapter is Luffy turning a tree into a baseball bat, smacking the drops of poison back at Saturn and Mercury, with little effort, mind you. But it's one of those moments where you sit back and can't help but question so much about the logistics of how, and yet you just asking that question makes it somehow even funnier. It's one of those things where you just look at that whole scenario and how it played out, and you're like, how did that happen? But at the same time, just questioning it makes it all the funnier, I think. Now, aside from that, though, and on a more serious note, we do cut back to Kizaru in this chapter, laid out on his back, saying he's tired and that he just wants to rest now. And so, I doubt that's... I don't... Now, this is one of the more confusing things for me, which is to say that normally whenever Kizaru is in a state like that, it's sort of a sign that, he's gonna do something. He's still got one card left to play, he's still got some trick of his sleeve. There's some sort of circumstance by which Kizaru is gonna throw himself back into the fray, so to speak. But the biggest question I have is just what purpose does Kizaru have left to play in this arc? Will it do... And in what direction will that turn the tide in if he does choose to throw himself into the fray? Is he gonna try to, or is he gonna try to do something to get the Navy a win on this side, or is he gonna trying to do his own thing now? Because between the arrival of the Giant and Vegapunk at Death's Door, to me, it's not really feeling like there's a whole lot Kizaru can do in this moment, unless this was just a means to check in on Kizaru. I don't know, maybe Kizaru can do something to hold up the Giant, but how... But it's even then, it's even then it feels like there's only so much Kizaru can do in that situation at this point in time, and especially with so many forces amassed on the island, it kind of just feels like a cleanup operation at this point in favor of the Straw Hats. The only thing I can fathom is that Kizaru might do something to discreetly help run down the clock to allow Vegapunk's message to be broadcast. That's the only purpose I can see him serving. I'm trying to think of anything else he could do, but there's not really a whole lot I'm seeing for Kizaru to do at this point in time, but I don't know. I think with Kizaru, it's sort of just kind of a wait-and-see attitude, see what he does. But But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime signing off. Later, everyone.